Welcome to Litbit channel. Today we will see the heroic tragedy and overview. First of all, we will see what is a heroic tragedy. Heroic tragedy is a type of play that becomes very popular in the late 17th century, especially during the Restoration period. It is different from regular tragedy because it's inspired by epic poetry like the ancient Greek and Roman epics. These plays have exaggerated larger than life characters and the events in the stretched far beyond what's realistic. The themes are grand, emotional, and often deal with the ideas of heroism and love rather than being told in a narrative way like in epics. These themes are brought to life through action and dialogue. Next one, pioneer of a heroic tragedy. One of the key features who helped shapes this genre was John Dryden. He defined heroic tragedy as a small version of an epic poem. Dryden's plays like All for Love in 1678 and the Conquest of Granda in 1672 are examples of heroic tragedy. These plays use big dramatic themes and notable characters, showing the grand and elevated style that defines this genre. Followers and their works. After Dryden's, other writers picked up on the style. For example, Nathaniel works The Revival Queens in 1677, which is another play with heroic characters and themes of love and honor. Then Thomas wrote Venice Preserved in 1682, which is more of a traditional tragedy, but it still includes some elements of heroic tragedy like high emotions and notable ideals. Key features of a heroic tragedy: exaggerated reality. The events and characters in this play are much grander than ordinary life. Everything is magnified, whether it's the character, emotions, or their action. Then, improbability. Heroic tragedies often stretch the limits of believability. Characters must do things that seems impossible, or supernatural elements like gods or magical events are introduced. Then elevated language. The dialogue in these plays is much more formal and poetic compared to traditional tragedies. The idea is to reflect the grandeur of the themes being explored. In epic styles, the play structures and themes are similar to an epic poem, with big battles, notable heroes, and supernatural force involved. The plot is always on a larger than life style. Characteristics of heroic tragedy. Larger than life characters, the heroes and heroines in these plays are idealized figures. They embody virtues like honor, courage, and love, and their actions are dramatic and notable. Then, dramatized plot is the stories often focus on themes of love, heroism, or war, and sometimes include gods or supernatural force. These plots are about big dramatic actions and not ordinary situations. Then the formal language is unlike traditional tragedies that use more everyday language. Heroic tragedy use elevated figurative language to express grand ideas and emotion. Then supernatural elements, just like in epic, supernatural events must be used to make the story even more exciting and dramatic. Next one, when did heroic tragedy starts? Heroic tragedy becomes popular in the second half of the 17th century during the Restoration period in 1660 to 1685. It emerged as a reaction to the more serious and controlled forms of drama that came before it, especially during the Puritan era. Then famous work and authors are: one of the most famous works of heroic tragedy is All for Love in 1678 by John Dryden. This play tells the heroic love story of Antonio and Cleopatra, and it's a great example of the genre. It uses a world language and grand themes of love and honor, fitting the styles of heroic tragedy and perfectly. In conclusion part, heroic tragedy was a big part of the Restoration period in English theatre. It offered the audience a form of drama that was exciting and dramatic, full of noble heroes, love stories, and supernatural events. These plays were a step away from the usual, more realistic tragedies, and their uses of elevated language and larger than life character made them stand out. By mixing the epic poetry with the dramatic performance, heroic tragedy became a key feature of 17th century English drama. So, to sum it up, heroic tragedy is a type of play that focuses on grand stories with notable characters, using formal language and exaggerated events to create a dramatic, larger than life experience. It was popular during the Restoration period and with writers like John Dryden leading the way. Let me recall this chapter. What is heroic tragedy? Heroic tragedy is a type of play that became popular in the late 60s. It's differ from older tragedies because it's inspired by epic poems featuring larger than life character and grand dramatic events. Then next one, how does heroic tragedy differ from traditional tragedy? Heroic tragedy focus on big grand stories and idealized heroes, unlike traditional tragedies which focus on real human struggles and flaws. It uses action and dialogues to tell the story rather than just narration. Then, what is Dryden definitions of dramatic tragedy? Dryden described heroic tragedy as a small versions of an epic poem, meaning it uses similar grand themes and notable characters but in the form of the play. Then, what are the similarities between epic poems and heroic tragedy? Both have grand themes, notable heroes, and intense emotions. The main difference is how they are told. Epics are narrated, while heroic tragedies are performed with action and dialogue. Stretching probability in heroic tragedy. In heroic tragedy, things happens that may not be realistic, like impossible events or supernatural movements. This is okay because it's meant to be dramatic and exciting, like in the poem in epic poems. Why does the heroic playwright have a greater liberty of fancy? The playwright has more freedom to imagine big, exciting events and characters that go beyond normal reality. Traditional tragedies don't have this much freedom. What is the role of supernatural in heroic tragedy? Supernatural events are used to make the story more exciting, similar to how they appear in epic poems. It adds drama and helps create a sense of adventure and fantasy. What does it mean? Heroic tragedy magnifies reality. Heroic tragedy shows lives in a bigger, more dramatic way, exaggerating character and events to make them so more exciting and notable. Next one, how are a character portrayed in the heroic tragedy? Characters in heroic tragedies are idealized heroes or heroines, showing virtues like honor, love, and sacrifice, which are exaggerated compared to ordinary people. Then, how does the plot of a heroic tragedy differ from that of a conventional tragedy? The plot in heroic tragedy focuses on the grand themes like heroism, love, and sacrifice, often including supernatural elements, while traditional tragedies focus on more realistic everyday issue. Then, what is the significance of the epical style in heroic tragedy? The epical style means using formal, elevated language, not simple everyday speech. It reflects the grand, notable themes of the play. Why does a heroic tragedy not imitate realistic life conversation closely? Since the subject and grand and heroic, the language is more formal and figurative, which helps to make the events and emotions feels bigger than. Thank you viewers. Thanks for watching this video.